Basillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach as we always do Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And there's so much out there. Joe and I have said on the show a million times that, when it comes to the wacko, insane, evil left, it's like for Joe and I doing a show, it's like they're serving up a big ribeye with a baked potato with sour cream and butter and bacon, and the whole 9 yards, and cream spinach and cream corn on the side, because it's just the gift that keeps on giving, especially if you're talking about Canada. Because now there was a news article going around that the left in Canada, including the Prime Minister himself, is saying that a Catholic school that wouldn't allow a certain book in their library because the book had a character who was a gay uncle and didn't want that in the library. That's book burning. Aren't you book burning? Joe Resinello, they're the biggest book burners there are. Book burners there are.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, ultimately, let's look at the books. First of all, it's a Catholic school, which means it's private,
Right.
Which means that you have a right to say what you want your kids to look at, i.e., it's not state run. And there's certain things that frankly aren't sanctioned by the church, and they have every right to say no to, just like Muslims, just like Jews. It's the same thing.
Right.
So what is the problem? I mean, let's be real. They talk about book burning as if like they're burning Shakespeare. They're talking about basically books that show 9-year-olds how to give oral sex.
Right.
I have no problem burning that book. Sorry, it has no place in that classroom. Let's tell.
What is the educational value of it? Let's be clear. Joe, there's a bunch of mantras that accompany this thing. One of them is, what qualifies you as a parent to say what should be in the curriculum, or what books should be read, or what should be in the library? I don't know. I pay taxes. I don't know. Maybe I'm offended. I don't know. Maybe I'm a Catholic and I pay taxes and I don't want that crap being around my son or my daughter. I don't want it there. How about that? What do you mean what qualifies me? I don't need a PhD on the wall to tell you no.
To be honest with you, you don't count. You see, that's what they don't say. It's the same thing in the States, Joe. I mean, we don't count. I pay taxes, but I have to and by the way, I can't even complain about it. I have to subject my children, to lewd books, and they are lewd. I don't want my 10-year-old to know about anal sex. Sorry, and any sane parent shouldn't. And if you want that, I got news for you. That's your business. I'm willing to let you stay in your lane, but you're not willing to let me stay in mine. And I don't count. My voice doesn't count. I don't get it. I'm somehow missing something when that's not the case. To me, it's just common sense. It's simply common sense. And they never paint the whole picture. They talk about book burning as if, like I said, we're getting rid of Steinbeck, Canterbury Tales. No, it's information, frankly, that's not suited for an adult. Let me ask you this, Joe. When you go to a movie, there's certain ratings, right? PG-13, R. Let's just look at PG-13. What does that mean? That means if you're under 13, you can't go to the movie without an adult, right? Mm-hmm. What they're showing kids in public school is much more graphic than what's in a PG-13 movie.
Right.
Does that make any sense to
anyone? No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. But remember something. They're not trying to make sense. They're trying to spin it, Joe,
100%.
To make you look like the bad guy. Because, look, if you were talking about common sense, number one, they would debate these things. But they say, well, no, there is no debate. Well, actually, there is a debate. But, of course, remember something, Joe. Who are the book burners? They are. Who are the censors? They are. There's a clip of Justin Trudeau going around where he's talking about how, remember, Joe, there's always an exception to free speech. You know what I'm saying? There's always no, people have the right to free speech, except when it comes to misinformation and disinformation. Okay, that means you control or you define what misinformation and disinformation is, and basically you're a censor, Prime Minister Trudeau. And it's the same with this. Listen, I want my kid to bring a Bible into class in the public school. Is it allowed?
No,
Right.
that's
Who the
okay.
book burners? Who the book burners?
100%. And that's a great point. Yet they'll argue up and down. They'll throw separation of church and state.
There is no separation of church. See,
Oh,
that's
I
the
know
BS.
that. I know.
That's the BS. Like if one thing that one of the things that you and I try to do at the front line with Joe and Joe all the time, and please, if you're watching this video, share it, whether it's on Rumble, YouTube, X, wherever, is that we got to shout it from the rooftops, Joe. We have to make sure we take back the language from them. We have to make sure that we fight them on every front. I'm getting tired of these whiny teachers. And it's always, Joe, remember something. They all get their same orders from the same place. Okay. So and you could see that when you see all the videos going around on social media, when all different teachers at all different, all in front of a bunch of different boards of education, all throughout Canada, all throughout the United States, you all say the same thing. I want to know what qualifies parents to tell us what could be in the curriculum or what books we could read. That's one of them. Okay. The other one is that somehow, some way, these transvestites being around little kids somehow is educational. Somebody's got to explain that to me, Joe.
I'll be honest with you. Let's just be, like I said, we live in a pluralistic society. They always talk about compromise. Well, how does this sound? Let's be agnostic because it's in the public square. You're not interested in my religion. I'm not interested in yours. I'm simply not.
Right.
And I'm respectful of your choices. I really am. I don't advise them. But if you want that, you're free. You are free. I believe in freedom. God believes in freedom. God gives us free will. He doesn't impose himself on anyone, and neither do I.
Right.
You're imposing yourself on me and my children, and I pay taxes too, and I count. So let's do it this way. Math is math. History is history. There's no room for activism, just like there's no room for activism in sports. Shouldn't be. Just like there's no room in activism for business because it's money. People want to work, like basically you want customers. You're not there to offend people. Do that. And here's the compromise. Joe, I'll be honest with you. On your time, I don't care what you do, as long as you don't hurt people. You want to call yourself a giraffe on Saturday? You're a giraffe. Good for you. Do whatever the hell you want. It's your business, it's your time, and you're free. But when you're at work, I don't want to know that you're a giraffe. I want you to work. I want you to work. And I'm not going to play a charade and call you a giraffe at work. Sorry. I'm here to work. You're here to work. We're going to do our thing. On Saturday, you want to be a giraffe? You do it. At the end of the day, same thing with this. If you want to raise your kids where they don't have a gender in your house, don't advise it. I think it's sad. And frankly, to be truthful with you, I even think it's child abuse. And I think history.
Well, it is child. It is child.
It really
abuse.
is. It really is.
Well, here's the thing. Some parents don't have. I'm gonna throw, Joe. I'm gonna throw a little common sense your way. Okay. I'm gonna be Mr. Middle of the road for a second. I'm gonna take off my what they would call my right wing fascistic cap. Okay, and I'm just gonna try to skirt the middle of the road. How about this in a public school? Now, I want your honest opinion. I love all your everybody out there listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe, Barbara, Mary, a bunch of other people are in the chat room. I'm gonna throw something at you. And you tell me if this doesn't sound perfectly fair. You pay taxes, you're a Catholic parent, okay? The atheist parent or the secularist parent who doesn't give a crap about all this stuff and doesn't care if their kid's exposed to this stuff, well, they pay taxes too. How about this? How about transgender studies, okay, in the public school is an elective? And I get to opt my child out of that class. Okay. Or no, I just simply, my child's not going to choose that class. Okay.
There you go.
And the other thing is this, my child cannot be penalized by the higher education institutions for not having taken that class. So that if you're a parent who doesn't give a crap about your kid learning about anal sex at 8 years old, go right ahead. The elective is there for you. God help you. God help you. But my kid doesn't have to. What's wrong with that?
Joe, that's my point. You see, that's why it's not about you, because you're a second-class citizen. Religion, Obama couched it perfectly. You're free to have religion. It has to be in your house alone. You will not bring it in the public square. It is a diluted version of separation of church and state. Church and state is not to prevent you to have a religion outside.
I think I lost Joe Rossinello, but what I would say is this. As far as church and state is concerned, let's remember that the First Amendment, the free expression of religion, is not there to protect the state from religion. It's there to protect religion from the state. I wish people would get that through their head, but unfortunately, people don't get that through their head. There's also this fictitious wall of separation. Again, a letter written by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptists that was assuring them that the state wasn't going to encroach on their freedom of religion. By the way, Jerusalem Jim's in the chat room. I didn't cut Joe off, Jim. I think Joe might have had just a technical issue. So we're going to get, as soon as he comes back, we're going to get him right back on. Of course, he's my brother. I wouldn't cut him off. And aside from that, I don't want you to just hear me ranting. But that's the thing. And there's all these double standards that go on. Again, we started this conversation because we were talking about Justin Trudeau and what's going on in Canada. Okay. It's all projection. No one is harming. No one is causing any violence to anybody who's so-called transgender, okay? No one's causing them violence. It's fictitious. It's all made up. No one's taking away their right to speak freely. They're taking away our right to speak freely. They're taking away our right to choose freely. They're taking away everything that we want for our children and saying, you need to do what we tell you to do for your children. And we don't care. Lost Beagles in the chat room said Joe got cut off by going too far in the breach. Lost Beagle, they went to his house. They went and plucked him right out. Pretty soon they're going to come and do that to me too. And that's the thing. So it's a lot of, obviously what's going on in Canada and what's going on in America. I mean, it's really just something we have to think about. I just want to give a couple of shout outs right here. We got the Tedford here. We have, I think it's Viola Man. Barbara, a good friend of the show from the very beginning. CQ. Hey, listen, CQ, burn all the pedo books. I'm with you 1,000%. I'll have a bonfire with that. Like Joe said, we're not burning Camus. We're not burning Steinbeck. We're not burning Hemingway. Okay, I was assigned those things in high school. We're not, and I went to Catholic high school. We're not burning their books. But if you got a book that describes anal sex to an 8-year-old, yeah, that book's getting burned. Violet Man says the 2 kids cartoons are now subliminal. Yeah, there's a lot of it that's underneath. One of the books that's being not banned, but removed from a Catholic library in a Catholic school in Canada because one of the characters is a gay uncle. Yeah, that's right. I don't want my child reading a book where the 2 main characters have a gay uncle. I don't care if it happens all the time. I don't care if there's a lot of Catholic gay uncles in the world. I really don't care. It's not something I want to expose to my child at 7, 8, 9 years old. It's something that I want to explain these things to my child. And that's really what it comes down to. And there, people like Justin Trudeau certainly want to just take that away from everybody. Mary Michelle's in the chat room. They get their orders from the devil. Listen, do you see the way some of these people are dressed? I'm being honest with you. Okay. Now, a man dressing as a woman is bad enough. Okay. Let's be clear about that. But sometimes they get the devil horns on, like they look like Sam Smith at the Grammys. No, they don't hide it. Is the whole point? They don't hide it at all. They're just going to keep it going and keep it going and keep it going until good people like all you out there, people like Joe and I at the front line with Joe and Joe, until we do something about it. We just have to continue to fight against them, but as much as we can. And remember something too, at least here in America, what you have is if you go up and you go to a school board here, let me tell you, some of you might remember this. So a father whose daughter was raped by a boy in the girls' room, and the boy was pretending to be a girl, and the girl got raped. This boy did it at another school, and the school board hid it. Okay, they hid it from the parents, and at this current school board hid it from that same parent. And that parent went up there, and started screaming at them. Well, not screaming, that sounds too shrill, but started to raise his voice and really, get after them and say, how dare you hide this from me? That guy got arrested. That guy got pulled out of there. That guy got put on a terrorist watch list by Merrick Garland. That guy was the cause of Merrick Garland and his Justice Department saying that harassment of school board members is going to be considered a crime. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean if, God forbid, my daughter, I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter who was raped by a boy pretending to be a girl, and I go up and I want to hold the school board accountable, and I do so in not so nice and not so muted terms, does that mean that that's harassment? That means that I could go to jail for that? Because that's really what they're saying. That's what we're going through. See, our laws in America have been weaponized by people like Merrick Garland. That's exactly what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, we have no choice but to fight against it. Lynn Norrie's in the chat room, says high school shop teachers with huge breast prosthetics. Yeah. Did you see that nonsense? Did you see that man pretending to be a woman? But then again, that's an interesting one, Lynn, and I'm glad you brought it up. What that guy was doing, that guy was mocking. That's what that guy was doing. See, he knows, and yeah, it's a he knows that what he's doing is pushing buttons even more so than your typical transgenders, okay? But he had those big prosthetics on and walking around the school, and guess what? Making a spectacle of himself. And soon as you say something, remember something, soon as you say something, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. Well, you want to know what? I'm going to give everybody a little history lesson as far as being conservative, whether here in America or in Canada. Even when the conservatives talk nice, I don't care who you talk about. I don't care if you go back to Ronald Reagan, who liked to make jokes. I don't care if Papa Bush told corny jokes. John McCain, Mitt Romney, all those people who tried to be nicey nice with the left, they were all fascist, racist, Nazis, anti-women. They destroyed these people. And then they get mad at Donald Trump when he says, well, you're not going to treat me nice anyway, so I might as well just let you have it. They're not going to treat you nice either. They're not going to treat me and Joe very nicely. All right? They're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. They're going to call you all sorts of names. So why don't we give them a reason to call us names? No trannies in the school libraries. No trannies reading books to 8-year-olds. None of these books describing anal, oral, or any other kind of sex to an 8-year-old because it's against what I believe as a parent paying taxes in a public school system. Can someone please tell me what's wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're listening to The Frontline with Joe and Joe Pasillo. I lost Joe Resinello, but I promise at some point I'm going to get him back. He's going to pop back in there. But this is a conversation that we need to spread. We need to talk about it. And we need to really we need to get everybody to not only raise their consciousness about what's going on, because some people are just clueless about that. You're not, I'm not, Joe's not, but some people are just clueless about this stuff, and not be afraid. Not be afraid. And that's a problem with a lot of people. And I get it. Believe me when I tell you, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my job either. But but the fact is sometimes we got to sit up. I got Joe Resinello on the phone. Joe, I'm still live. So what's happening?
You're not on my screen.
Right. And you're not on mine. So what's happening? Are you saying anything? You want to go out and click back in? Yeah, I don't know what's going on, and can you see? Are you?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Well, I don't know for the life of me why that's happening. But I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, Joe, I guess until we figure it out, I'm just gonna keep it moving. Then I don't know what to do.
Because, like I said, it could be. Hold on, maybe it's my internet. It's possible.
Jerusalem Jim is laughing at us. He goes, ha 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 ha.
Oh, Lord. All right, I don't know what to say. Like I said, it's.
Why don't you click out and try to click back in?
Okay.
Use that same link. Okay. Bye-bye. All right, so let's talk about another phenomenon real quick. By the way, I'm sorry about all the technical problems. This never happens to us, but nonetheless, we go live Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern time. We talk a little bit about Canada. We talk a little bit about America, okay? I think I got Joe Resinello back. Joe Resinello, are you back with me?
Yes, I am.
All right, so Joe, listen, I got a big mouth. I really do, but I got to tell you something. I can't do this show without you, brother. I tried, and everybody was carrying me, Joe, in the chat room. It was great. It was like everybody realized they thought somebody, I think it was Jerusalem Jim said, "Hey, did you cut Joe off?" I said, "No, I didn't cut him off. Come on, man." So anyway, Joe, to put a finer point on it, we ended the conversation about the book banning. A lot of it's projection. A lot of it is just, basically that people need to raise their consciousness and people need to stiffen their spine and really fight against it. So yeah, I can see everybody in the chat over here. So yeah, so I think somebody's calling us Nazis. Or no, wait a minute. Sir, this is classic Hitler Nazi book burnings. They feel, I don't know what the guy's saying. Anyway, so Joe Resinello, let's talk about another phenomenon that's going on. I saw this primarily in Canada, but it's going on here. Does anybody out there in the chat room, Joe, do you know about shrinkflation?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about that too. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was saying, yes, basically they put less in the same container.
Can you imagine, and charge the same price?
Oh, of course, it's a given.
So they try. So really, I don't know, Joe. I think if something is 16 fluid ounces, give me the 16 fluid ounces and raise the price. Have some stones and raise the price. And then if you raise the price, but don't pass it off as though, like, the perfect example, Joe, is a bag of potato chips. You see those big bags of potato chips you get, let's say, at the supermarket, all right?
It's all air.
It's all air. It's all air. And listen, they take 3 chips out of each bag. And you know what, Joe? They save millions. They save millions, but you get chipped out of 3 chips.
You know what it is too, and this is where like Jagmeet in Canada talks about, it's the corporations. Well, here the corporations are guilty, but they're taking advantage of a situation. Why is there inflation in the first place? Well, we took away gas and oil. That's all our economies are driven by gas and oil. You basically put carbon taxes on anything that to do with gas. And basically that affects the supply chain. Also, you printed money. You printed money you didn't have.
Right.
I could speak about Joe Biden. Joe Biden gave out COVID checks, which was a complete and utter waste of time. What was $1,200? People spent money, frankly, on stupid ass things. What is $1,200? As if like one check gonna do for you?
Nothing.
Like in all honesty, even if you're down on your luck, it keeps you afloat. How long? How long does $1,200 keep you?
You're talking about like during COVID?
Yes, more money that they just pissed away.
I got 3 months out of it, and thank God my boss called me back to work because I worked in New York City at the time. I was able to survive for 3 months, and my boss called at the right time and said, "Yeah, come on, we're opening back up." And I was like, "Okay," but no, you can't. Who the hell can live on that? And it's all borrowed money too. Like you said, Joe, it's all just printed money, and it's what part of what led to all the inflation to begin with. You know what I'm saying?
It's like I said, more waste of money. It's sad. It's completely sad. And then we wonder why. Now, basically, we're paying for it. We're paying for it. That's why and by the way, when they do stuff like that, people, it's like A shares and B shares in a mutual fund. You either pay up front or you pay on the back end.
Right.
It's one of the two. When you do that, they're giving you something. You're going to pay on the back end, and you're going to pay more.
Right.
You're going to pay more. But people don't think, Joe, I'll be honest with you. It's so sad. It's so sad to watch the destruction of the West. It's pathetic, actually.
No,
it really is sad. It's
when
sad.
You think of what we did, when you think about all of the contributions of Western civilization to everywhere in the world, I don't care. Okay, you see the marks now. The racist, or the ones who would call us racist for, let's say, admiring Western civilization, valuing Western civilization, will hate what I'm about to say. The fingerprint of Western civilization is in every country in the world. Joe, you've been to India. You've been there, okay? Go look at the difference between the buildings that the British built there and the ones that the Indians built, going back 100, 150 years. Go look at the difference between the two of them. One broken down, never had any aesthetic quality to it whatsoever. And you look at it next to some of the buildings that the British built, all right? And you see that some of the contributions to Western civilization, and it's just crumbling all around. By the way, on shrinkage, let me shrinkflation, okay? Keep in mind something. This is not a new phenomenon. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to back this up, Joe Resinello. Have you noticed over the course of the last 20 years how small a Big Mac has gotten? And I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. When we were kids, a Big Mac was a Big Mac. Everybody's just following McDonald's lead. McDonald's, little by little, incrementally over the course of years, saved billions of dollars by taking a little bit of meat out at the time, little bit of onions out at the time, little bit of this, little bit of that. To the point, go get a Big Mac right now, Joe. 5 Big Macs wouldn't fill me up right now. They've been doing shrinkflation for years, without inflation being a problem. And it's the truth. A lot of corporations have already. This is part of the standard practice for them, but even more so now.
Well, like I said, it's happening in real time, and we know why. Because the man always gets his money. That's another thing that, like, sadly, Democrats and I don't even want to point fingers at them because the Republicans stink too. But
Yeah,
when the idealistic Democrat, I call them almost like the college tax the corporations. Yes, you do have to tax the corporations. I get it, but they pass everything back onto you.
right,
Don't you get it? Oh, we're going to raise the minimum wage to 25. They're going to fire people.
right,
They actually think that it's equitable, like that the corporation is somehow like the CEO is going to say, I'm going to share
right.
my huge check with my
Yeah,
people. It doesn't work that way.
right,
Like, where do you live under a rock? And then you listen to people who say that and you believe it.
right,
Like, where do you work? Like, what are you an adult? I expect that out of a 16-year-old, and frankly, I'll accept that. But when I hear adults say that,
right,
there has to be a fine line. You have to unless the state's just going to take over, unless that's what you want, take over the company, and then it won't
right.
make any money because the state can't even run the post office. But I'm
Well,
just saying,
and well, as a matter of fact, but see, the thing is, Joe, and I'm glad you brought that up. If everybody's just anybody just joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, please like, subscribe, share this video. Joe, this is something for a lot of people to understand. State ownership of the means of production is not going to go over well. The communists and the Marxists know that. All they've done is they have shifted the structure of what they want to do to a more fascistic structure or a corporatist structure so that they don't have to take over the means of production. They could just have all their people go into those industries and then control those industries. I'll give you the perfect example. DEI. Most companies would say, I'm not putting this on my workers. I'm not putting this on my customers. Get out of here. Kick rocks, BlackRock and the rest, Citadel and the rest of you. I'm not doing all this stuff. But see, they send their people into these companies. So basically what you have right now is you have a partnership between government and the biggest corporations in the world, Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, all of them. Okay. And now, as of today, NVIDIA, I think, is a $1.7 trillion company. Their stock was up 100 points today after their earnings came out. My point is this: you don't have to own the means of production. You just have to have your people at the top levels of the biggest corporations in the industry. And then you can, like I said, it won't be state ownership of the means of production, but you're basically going to be able to control the economy. And that's what they do.
Well, that's what Justin Trudeau did with the truckers, with the banks. The government and the banks colluded.
Right.
That should be illegal. ESG. It should be illegal. It's a
Yeah.
way to get around laws. And frankly, once again, corporate people love it. They love it, particularly in Europe. Absolutely love it.
Why do
Because
they love it?
well, it's their, Joe, it's their religion, environmental, social governance. It's virtue signaling. And here's the funny part that people don't catch on with. The second they don't make money, they back away from it. just like CNN, just like Disney, they fire people. All of that is nothing more than virtue signaling. It's
Right.
nothing more. When push comes to shove, and if they really cared about these issues, they'd eat the loss and they'd say, I'm still going to do this, but they don't.
Right.
They look what happened with Bud Light. They changed their tune. If you were
Oh,
so
did you see some of the commercials? They had Emmett Smith and Peyton Manning in a Bud Light commercial. All right. Now, if you want to talk about testosterone
well,
filling the
that's
streets,
exactly the point. If they were this is where people have to, if this is your cause, okay, if this is your bag, you should be appalled at that. Where is the protest? They completely caved to the almighty dollar.
right?
It's pure virtue signaling. It's not deep. Because if you really care about a cause, you'll say, I'll eat the loss and I'm still going to do it. You're still going to get that commercial. I don't care who buys it, but that's not the way it works.
Right.
And people, again, they're just blind to it, Joe. It's, Joe, we don't have the backbone. The people, frankly, if enough people, I call them people of goodwill, we the people simply said no. We shut it all down. We shut it down. No one forces you to write a check. You do it. You
Right.
do it. If you simply say no, I'm not
Well,
going
here's
to.
the thing. Take. I'll give you an example. Now we got to eat, right? So we have to spend money on food. Do you have to go buy a new iPhone? Do you? You got one 2 years ago. Do you have to go buy another one? Why don't you let
100%
Apple?
agree.
Why don't you let Apple sweat a little bit? Why do you got to buy your kid a tablet? Okay, let him read a book. You
Joe,
don't have
you're
to.
100% right. We don't get it. And here's another thing: the corporations, talking about shrinkflation, they know you better than you know yourself. That is the key to marketing. A marketer understands you better than you understand you, and they
Right.
manipulate it. They manipulate it, and they get rich because of it. It's about time people open their eyes. And sadly, this is why many people on this planet get bulldozed.
Right.
They just don't understand how the system works. They don't know how to navigate it, and they get crushed. They get crushed. They allow themselves to get crushed because they don't get it.
Right.
And frankly, some of this stuff should be taught in high school. Home ec should come back. People, because sadly, and here's another problem: a lot of this stuff should be taught in the home when you have a family, a family where a mom and a dad show you what the pitfalls of life. But now families are gone. We
Right.
don't even have that type of guidance anymore. And frankly, it's like sheep to the slaughter.
Right.
People get destroyed. They can't navigate the system because they don't see it as it is. And they get destroyed. And it's sad. Joe, I swear, I feel sometimes when I watch things, I'm watching a drug addict destroy themselves. It's like that. It's like just watching somebody, they just destroy themselves.
Well, let me tell you something. Just as easily as you could get addicted to drugs, you could get addicted to spending money, just buying things, just buying things,
Yeah, but
just to
Joe,
buy
the
them.
thing is, I don't know. I was taught you buy something, you got to pay it back. I
Right.
mean, like, I don't understand how, like, I'll be honest with you. I'm 53 years old. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. My father was a barber. My mother was a secretary. I have never carried a credit card debt, ever.
Mhm.
Never. My whole life. I bought something, I pay for it. If I have
Right.
$10, I live on $10. That's how my
Right.
parents lived,
Right.
and that's how I lived. If I didn't have the money,
You didn't buy it.
I didn't buy it.
Right.
That to me is common sense,
Right.
Joe.
Joe, everything now is, oh, scan your card, scan your card, scan your.
But you got to
Listen,
pay for it.
Joe,
I mean,
listen. Go ahead.
my mother, when I went to college, she gave me an American Express card, and her parting words was this: "You use this card if, like, your legs get broken." I never used it.
Right.
4 years of college and
Because your
never
legs didn't get broken. 'Cause
right.
your leg-
I did because I understood that my parents worked hard, and when you buy something, you have to pay it back.
Right.
This is, to me, a fundamental understanding of being an adult. You don't have to have an Ivy League degree to do that. My parents did not go to college, and they did that.
Right.
And we don't get it because we don't know how to live anymore.
Well,
We
yeah,
don't know how to
also
live.
we're allowing ourselves to be duped by the marketers, by the corporations. Don't make you think you can't get through life without a credit card. To be honest with you, it's like, well, you too can have it. You remember the Bugs Bunny cartoon? It's like you too could have all these luxuries, right? Like they try to tell you. So they give you a card with $20,000 credit limit, and they tell you, oh, we love you. You got a great credit score and everything else. And the bottom line is this. They're just driving you into a system of
You're
slavery.
100% right, but I'll tell you why people do that, because we don't have a sense of who we are. You see, when you know who you are, you're a child of God. My value does not come from this earth. Now, I need things. I need clothes on my back. I need a roof over my head. I need basic things. But my point is, the world tells you that you're not a person unless you have X, Y, and Z. And then the world, through credit, allows you to get it and makes you a slave. And we willingly do that because we don't feel like we're human.
Right.
They make you feel like you're not a human being unless you have X, Y, and Z. And if your feet are not firmly planted on the ground, oh, you're just a foolish religious person. Am I foolish? I'm not a slave.
Right.
And this is why people do exactly, because they don't feel like they're human. They listen to the voices of commercialism, which
Right.
tell you that.
Right. And like you said, it puts people into a mindset that they can afford anything as long as they have a credit card. Joe, we have to keep it moving. I did want to mention Vernon. This is interesting, Joe. I don't know if you're able to see the comments. Vernon says, "Hi from Nova Scotia. Your content disappeared from my Facebook. Went back in and reconnected. Keep up the good work." Thank you, Vernon. See what I mean? I'm not crazy, Joe. I'm not crazy. Remember something. They don't have to outright, like YouTube do. They don't have to outright just ban you and say you're banned from YouTube forever. All they got to do is make sure you don't hit the algorithm. And guess what? People like Vernon, who was following us, now isn't. Joe, let's talk about one final thing in the final few minutes that we have. I want to play something from Mike Knowles. Something happened in Alabama recently, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
A court is just rightly recognized that preborn babies are human. Great decision here from Parker, the Chief Justice, who says a good judge follows the Constitution instead of policy, except when the Constitution itself commands the judge to follow a certain policy. In these cases, that means upholding the sanctity of unborn life, including unborn life that exists outside of the womb. So we're talking about embryos who have been put in freezers for whatever sort of perverse scientific reason. Our state constitution contains the following declaration of public policy. This state acknowledges, declares, and affirms that it is the public policy of the state to recognize and support the sanctity of unborn life and the rights of unborn children, including the right to life. That's in the state constitution. As noted in the main opinion, these cases involve unborn life, a fact that no party in these cases disputes. Therefore, we examine the term sanctity of unborn life, and we find the decision goes on, but we find that this pertains to unborn life inside the womb and outside the womb. Obviously.
So that's very, very, very interesting. It's an interesting development because that's obviously going to be challenged by the ACLU. And we're going to have to see whether or not the Supreme Court is going to make a decision.
They'll never take it.
No, Joe, they're going to have to.
It's funny.
They're going to have to. And again, I'm sorry to cut you off. They're going to have to. They're going to have to get involved in this because in one state you have a state constitution that says the right to life is recognized from the moment of conception. And another state says you could kill. I mean, California's pushing to be able to kill babies after they're born. So with these two extremes, Joe, I know what you're saying. I'm not saying I'm not saying what you're saying doesn't make sense. I just disagree with you. I think they're going to have to hear this if once it's challenged.
The reason why, that if you ask me, they have to defy science, which we've done in the past. Listen, we declared black people 3/5 of a human. What was it? How many?
3/5 of a human being.
Of a human being, to justify the fact that we enslaved them because we couldn't call them human. Well, in saying this, we either go one of two routes. We defy science and we look stupid, or we look science square in the face and have to abolish abortion. And in doing that, there will be a civil war.
Oh, yeah.
You want to see America go berserk in a way that it has never gone berserk. Republicans, too, by the way, make abortion illegal. That will be, dude, I'll be honest with you, you will see people go ballistic because they will. And that's why Roberts won't do it, because they know it.
It won't quell the what the rabid ideologues are going to do. Remember, we had Father Stephen Imperato here, Joe, just a few weeks ago, and he said, and he's on top of this, 20 to 25%, you could kill a baby right up to the moment of birth. 20 to 25% people like us, abortion abolitionists. Everybody else is in the middle. Those people in the middle, Joe, they don't care whether abortion is legal or not.
Oh, I know that.
So if the Supreme Court, see, that's why taking back language is so important. What has to be said is not that abortion is banned or not that abortion is outlined, is that the right to a human being to his or her own life is recognized in the Constitution under the 5th and 14th Amendment. That's the language that has to be used. Human life, the right to life, is already in the law. It's already in the Constitution.
No, I agree with you, Joe. Everything you said is right, and everything Father Stephen said is coming to be true, by the way. I texted him when I saw the Alabama outcome. And basically, this is the legal way to do it.
Right.
I just don't think we will do it because it will cause such a stir because we're so off as a society. We would rather have casual sex at the cost of taking a human life, knowing it and not caring, than actually doing what's right. And we vote for this and we support it for decades and will continue to do so.
Well,
and I'll be truthful with you. This is interesting. I will be shocked if they take this case. And I'll be even more shocked if they say that life begins, which is true.
Remember something. Let's refresh our audience here at the front line with Joe and Joe. And please, if you're watching this video, share it. Facebook, YouTube, and of course, until they take us down. But we are growing on X, and we're really trying to grow. We're really trying to grow on X, and we are growing nicely on Rumble. So please help us out. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a share. Remember what Father Stephen Imperato said, Joe, and he's a pretty well-connected guy. He said 5 of the justices were ready to do that before the Jackson decision. 5 of them were ready to do that, recognize the right to life, even though he said Kavanaugh was squishy. He said, I'll go along with everybody else. You know, Alito and Thomas, you know they're gonna recognize the right to life. Gorsuch seems to be on that page, Amy Coney Barrett. So you know what the bottom line is? They could do it without John Roberts. John Roberts could stand in the way of them hearing the case.
Well, that's the key. You see, I personally think the Dobbs decision was nothing more than a kick the can, get it out of my face. John Roberts is a political animal. I see him as a political animal. Was put there by George Bush. He's in charge for a reason. Get it out of my face. I don't see him taking it because he has no balls.
Right.
He's taken the Pennsylvania vote case. That was the right thing to do.
The right thing to do was step in on that case.
He didn't do it because he's a political animal. The only way he would do that if a gun was put to his head. Literally.
How about maybe a gun is put to his head? Maybe the guy is compromised. I mean, he has done something. Look, he throws the conservatives, the political and economic conservatives, a bone. Okay. And he didn't go along with the majority opinion in the Dobbs case. Okay. He didn't go along. He wrote his own opinion, if I remember correctly.
That doesn't shock me.
He tried to separate himself from that. okay? Because he doesn't even want to go that far to say, all right, I recognize abortion as a right. It's not in the Constitution, therefore it belongs to the states. I'm not going to talk about personhood or anything like that. Joe, not for nothing, the guy may very well be compromised.
I personally just think he's political. I just think he's a political animal, and he knows, and he's smart. It's not the smart thing to do to take this case if you're political. If you want to do the right thing, it's the thing to do. And I don't have any confidence in our government anymore. I have none, zero.
Right.
It's utterly and absolutely corrupted. I would be amazed if he took the case, and I would be amazed if they voted in that direction because of the fallout. It would be, Joe, it would be epic. It would be epic.
But wasn't the Civil War that was already fought, wasn't that epic?
But people are, you see, this is the sad thing, and I'm not advocating for civil war. But
I know you're not. I know you're not.
But what I will not do, though, is, and there's a lot of people that, because I heard this, they would rather give up a little bit of liberty and have a temporary peace. What they don't realize is you give up a little liberty, soon you'll have none. They would rather compromise it to have a superficial peace. Because frankly, Joe, and I hate to say this, a lot of America lives in a superficial state. They don't live in a deep manner. Life is, in many cases, lived in a rationalization. They rationalize everything.
Well, Joe, I agree with you on that, but I would say this, just from the way I see it. If those people that you're describing are not swayed by the rabid baby killers out there who want to kill babies up to the moment of birth, then they just kind of shrug their shoulders. Well, then when the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court said that the right to life is recognized under the 5th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution, therefore abortion is declared illegal, those same people are going to go, okay, so all right. You know what I mean? It's like they don't care. Now, remember something, no. Jesus had something to say about the lukewarm, but we got a lot of lukewarm people in this country.
Think about it this, though. Do they not care? Think about what just happened in Ohio. Joe, they did care. They
were lied to, Joe.
Okay, fair enough.
They were lied to. They can never get that through. And I'm going through it here in Arizona. And we had on Ed Steele last week. We were talking about here. We were talking about Florida. It's all deception, Joe. Those people did not know what they were signing. They did not know what they were signing.
But once it got to the ballot, that's to get it on the ballot. They didn't know. But then they voted.
I think they still were misinformed and still were lied to. Joe, give me a final thought in the final minute. What do you got to say?
Well, ultimately, I just don't see the court taking the case because I don't think Roberts, I really don't. I think it's the right thing to do, but I don't think he'll do the right thing. And frankly, even if it did happen, I think it would. Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. There's no political end to abortion. God is going to end abortion, and he's going to.
Yeah.
People have sex outside of the marriage covenant, and even within the marriage covenant, they do not welcome life because we want to be comfortable. And having children, a number of children, takes that comfort away. And we do not know what love is. That's what love is. Love is love. I'm going to tell you what love is. Love is self-sacrificial. And we don't understand that, and we don't want it, Joe.
Well, that's why, Joe Rossinello, that's why you and I are here, so we can help to raise the consciousness of people out there. Thank you all for joining us here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Please, wherever you see this video, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere.